In this video, we will show you how to replace your lower ball joint. Let's get started. Okay friends, let's get started on our job. The first thing you need to do is safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheels are off the ground. Once you've done that, continue on to removing your center cover with a small prying device. With that out of the way, continue on to your 5 21mm lug nuts. Remove all of those and then the wheel. With the wheel off of there, make your way to the back side of the caliper. On the back side, you'll find two 18mm headed bolts that hold the caliper bracket to the steering knuckle. Remove the pair. We'll leave this one in just a couple threads, fully remove the second. Inspect your hardware as you remove it. Replace it as necessary. Remove your caliper and set it aside, putting no pressure on your flex hose. Continue on to removing your brake rotor. Give that a quick inspection and set it aside. Now that we have that out of the way, let's continue on to our upper sway bar link nut. This will be easiest to remove if you heat it up a little bit. We'll use a 15mm. Now we can move along to our lower mounting nut. On this one, you can go ahead and use a little bit of heat as well to try to melt out the neoprene locker. Once you've done that, you can either try to hold onto the stud here with a 7mm wrench, or use some locking pliers and try to grab onto the stud along the other side of the sway bar itself. Once you've done that, continue on with a 15mm to remove this mounting nut. There's that. Remove your front sway bar link. With the sway bar link out of the way, we can continue on removing our upper ball joint nut. Use a 24mm to remove this. Now we can separate that a little bit. Before you continue separating this, make sure you follow the ABS wire along the upper control arm. You're going to find two mounting points for this. Go ahead and break those free. I'll use a small pocket screwdriver to separate this. Now that we have this disconnected from the control arm, we'll continue on down along to where it connects onto the knuckle. For this, we'll use some long nose pliers, grab onto the back side of this ear, and just carefully separate that. Once that's separated, make your way to the back side of the wheel bearing. There should be a rubber protective boot that covers this area. Go ahead and pull that aside. At that point, you can access the electrical connector. Along the top of the connector, there's a small tab. You can get underneath that and pull it up and away. Once you do, go ahead and disconnect it. Give it a check for corrosion and then set that aside. Now we can separate the upper ball joint from the knuckle. Let's continue on to removing our 18mm outer tie rod end nut from the steering knuckle. Now it's time to move along to our lower ball joint nut. Use a 24mm to remove this. Keep in mind, it's the last thing holding the knuckle inside the vehicle. Don't let it fall and potentially hurt you. Remove your knuckle from the area. All right, at this point, we can start removing the ball joint from the control arm. Along the top area of the ball joint, you're going to find that you have a snap ring. We'll use some snap ring pliers to carefully get in between these grooves and gently pull it off. Keep in mind, it is under spring tension. It might come flying off. There we are. We'll set that aside. At this point, we're going to start pressing the ball joint out of the lower control arm. You need to make sure you have a cup that can fit directly over the base of the ball joint. Looking down along here, you can see a circular groove that comes all the way around. Make sure you have a cup that fits around that and not on it, because we need to actually make sure that this presses down and out of the control arm. I'll take my cup, find the one that fits just barely over it, and then of course you'll have to have an adapter that has a hole through the bottom as well. We'll take that with the hole, put it over the ball joint. You can see the stud comes right through. Now we can take our ball joint press and put it in position. Let's apply some pressure. There it is, friends. Clean and inspect the control arm where your brand new ball joint needs to go. All right, friends, let's prepare to install our brand new lower ball joint. As you remember, before we took out our original ball joint, it came up a little bit along the top of the control arm. So you need to make sure you have a cup that makes it so the ball joint can make its way up through the control arm. We'll put this right up over the circular hole. After that, go ahead and take that ball joint, put it in position in the control arm. The next thing you'll want to do is take another cup that fits directly along the base of the lower ball joint. Be extremely careful not to damage the boot of the ball joint itself. Slide that in there. Now we can take our tool, make sure everything's aligned properly, and then apply some pressure, forcing the ball joint into the lower control arm from the bottom going up. Once it looks as though it's bottomed out against the bottom of the control arm, use your hammer while you still have pressure on this and give the control arm a couple loving bonks to cause vibration, just to make sure that this is completely seated. Remove your tool. In your kit, you'll find that it comes with a brand new snap ring. Put it in your snap ring pliers so that you can expand the snap ring. Once you've done that, we'll put it right along the top of the control arm. You're going to find that you have a groove that goes around the entire ball joint that the snap ring needs to fit into. Place it in that groove and then double check to make sure it's completely seated all the way around. Take that knuckle and put it in position. Install your brand new lower ball joint nut. Continue on by using your 24mm socket to tighten this mounting nut. Slide your outer tie rod into position, start on that nut and snug that up as well. To prevent the tie rod from spinning inside the knuckle, use a pry bar and gently pry up at the same time. Let's torque this to 111 foot-pounds. We'll start with the longer stud up along the top. Slide that directly into the knuckle. You can start the mounting nut on at this point. With that started, continue on to the lower aspect. we'll press that right into the sway bar. Once we have that in there, we'll put the nut on as well. Now that we have both the nuts started, continue on by snugging up the lower one first. We'll use a 15mm to tighten the nut and a 7mm to hold the stud while we do so. Make sure that's nice and tight. Once that's tight, torque it to 41 foot-pounds. Now we can make our way up to the top nut, snug this, and then torque it to 46 foot-pounds. Torque this nut to 46 foot-pounds. Torque your lower ball joint nut to 111 foot-pounds. Torque your tie rod nut to 59 foot-pounds. Let's install our clips on the brand new upper control arm. Secure your ABS wire. Continue on by pressing this in. Reconnect your electrical connector on the backside of the wheel bearing. Press it in. When you feel a click, give it a tug to make sure it's secured. All right, let's clean up the backside of our brake rotor. Give it a quick inspection. The next thing you want to do is clean up the hub mating surface. Apply some copper anti-seize. Install one of your lug nuts to hold the rotor in place while you continue. Install your brake caliper. Once it's in place, continue on with your 2 mounting bolts. We'll start each of these in, bottom them out, and then torque them to 118 foot-pounds. Remove that lug nut, get ready to install your wheel. Put the wheel in place. Start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts and then bottom them out. With the wheel safely back down on the ground, torque these to 100 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Reinstall your center cover. Okay friends, we've got the car back together. At this point, take it for a road test. Get yourself safely down to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.